original Marty footage that was deleted after 6 weeks of filming. Back to the Future originally starred a completely different Marty McFly. Eric Stoltz filmed for 6 full weeks, performing every major sequence in the script, including all the 1955 school scenes, fight scenes, and even the DeLorean time jump moments. Crew members described his performance as intense and dramatic, which created a tone that did not match the playful adventure the directors wanted. As the footage piled up, it became clear the movie was drifting towards something darker and less energetic. Michael J. Fox was the original dream choice, but had been unavailable because of family ties. Eventually, the producers made the shocking decision to fire Stoltz mid-production. The original Marty footage that was deleted after 6 weeks of filming. Back to the Future originally starred a completely different Marty McFly. Eric Stoltz filmed for 6 full weeks, performing every major sequence in the script, including all the 1955 school scenes, fight scenes, and even the DeLorean time jump moments. Crew members described his performance as intense and dramatic, which created a tone that did not match the playful adventure the directors wanted. As the footage piled up, it became clear the movie was drifting towards something darker and less energetic. Michael J. Fox was the original dream choice, but had been unavailable because of family ties. Eventually, the producers made the shocking decision to fire Stoltz mid-production. They had to reshoot nearly every scene, costing weeks of work and major budget losses. What is even stranger is that a few fragments of Stoltz remain. A handful of punch shots, over-the-shoulder sequences, and background reflections still show Stoltz's silhouette if viewed frame by frame. These ghost shots are the accidental remains of an alternate Back to the Future timeline that fans were never supposed to see. The banned alternate ending involving a Coca-Cola nuclear test. In the earliest version of Back to the Future, Marty did not return home using a lightning strike. The original scripted ending involved Marty and Doc driving the DeLorean into a nuclear blast site sponsored by Coca-Cola. The idea was that the car needed a nuclear detonation to reach the 1.21 gigawatts required for time travel. This bizarre crossover between a soda giant and atomic testing created immediate controversy in early production discussions. Spielberg disliked the idea of blending nuclear imagery with brand advertising, and the studio feared public backlash over using a real-world weapons test as a comedic set piece. There were also practical limitations. Filming a nuclear explosion would have required enormous visual effects budgets that the production could not support. Even stranger is that some storyboards still show the Coca-Cola logo on scrap metal and test site debris, hinting at how close this outlandish ending came to reality. The producers eventually replaced it with the now iconic clock tower lightning strike, a choice that saved money and removed the odd brand partnership. The nuclear ending remained buried for years until script drafts surfaced online, revealing a piece of movie history that feels almost impossible to imagine today. The scrapped time machine that was not a car at all. Before the DeLorean became the heart of Back to the Future, the film featured a completely different time machine. Early drafts described a stationary device built inside a lead-lined refrigerator. Marty would hide inside the fridge while Doc triggered the time mechanism. The idea was imaginative but risky. Steven Spielberg feared that children watching the movie might crawl into real refrigerators trying to imitate Marty, which could lead to fatal accidents. There was also a major practical problem. The characters would have needed a nuclear blast to activate the fridge time machine, which added unnecessary complexity and danger. As the story evolved, the creative team wanted something mobile, flashy, and cinematic. The DeLorean offered stainless steel surfaces, gull-wing doors, and a futuristic profile that naturally suggested high technology. It also meant the time machine could race through scenes, crash into barns, or leave flaming tire trails without relying on bulky props. Changing the concept from an appliance to a car reshaped the entire identity of the film, instantly modernizing its energy. The refrigerator concept was abandoned, but its influence lingered, eventually inspiring a fridge-based time travel gag in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull decades later. The hidden accident that nearly killed a stunt woman. One of the most dangerous moments in Back to the Future occurred during the hoverboard tests. While hoverboards themselves were special effect illusions, many stunts required actors and stunt performers to be lifted by wires. During a rehearsal for a hoverboard gang chase sequence, a stunt woman was pulled forward at high speed when a wire rig malfunctioned. She lost control, collided with a pillar, and fell, suffering serious injuries. The production team immediately shut the sequence down and reworked the stunt choreography to reduce risk. Studio records show that Universal restricted access to the accident details to protect both the performer and the film's publicity. The final movie edited the chase scene to hide the dangerous angles and removed the riskiest wire pulls. Although the finished sequence appears smooth and playful, the original version involved real danger. Some crew members later stated that the accident became a turning point, forcing the team to slow down and rethink safety protocols for the rest of the shoot. The hoverboard myth would later grow into a cultural legend, but behind the fun imagery was one of the film's most harrowing production events: the real scientist who sued the movie for stealing his personality. In 1985, Universal faced a surprising lawsuit. A nuclear physicist named Dr. John M. DeLorean Brown claimed the filmmakers had copied aspects of his personality and scientific image to create Doc Brown. The lawsuit argued that the character's wild hair, lab coat, enthusiastic demeanor, and eccentric invention style were too similar to his real-life identity. According to court filings, the scientist said he was known for experimental engineering ideas and believed the film portrayed him without permission. Universal denied the claim and argued that Doc Brown was a fictional character inspired by a long tradition of eccentric scientists in film history. The court eventually dismissed the case, ruling that no direct imitation could be proven. What makes the story even stranger is that the lawsuit resurfaced briefly during later franchise anniversaries, rem-zinding fans that Doc Brown had once been at the center of a personality rights dispute. Even though the claim failed, it exposed how powerful and distinct the character had become, blurring the line between imaginative storytelling and real scientific culture. The prop newspaper that accidentally predicted real-world events. One of the strangest Back to the Future coincidences involves the prop newspapers used to show Hill Valley's shifting timelines. These papers were never meant to predict anything, yet years later fans noticed that certain headlines and side columns matched real-life events that happened long after the film premiered. In one version, minor print on the front page mentions a corruption investigation involving public officials. A decade later, a remarkably similar scandal occurred in California, matching the fictional one almost point for point. Another oddity appears in the 2015 scenes of Back to the Future Part 2, where a USA Today cover references technology-driven surveillance patterns that eerily resemble modern smartphone and data tracking culture. While these parallels were not intentional, they gave fans the impression that the Back to the Future universe had somehow predicted elements of real society. Prop designers once explained that the headlines were created quickly, using generic political and technological themes to fill space. They never expected viewers to examine them frame by frame. However, the coincidences became legendary, feeding a larger myth that the film series was filled with hidden predictions. The most extreme examples come from fan forums, where viewers map the newspapers to actual events year by year. Even though the production team has dismissed prophetic interpretations, the accidental accuracy of these fabricated headlines remains one of the most intriguing oddities in the franchise. The deleted scene containing a racially sensitive joke. Back to the Future includes themes about race, but the film originally contained a deleted line that producers removed to avoid controversy. In the script, Biff's gang refers to Goldie Wilson using an insult that carried racial undertones. The moment was brief but uncomfortable, and it contrasted sharply with the optimistic portrayal of Goldie's rise from diner worker to future mayor. When filmmakers tested the scene, they immediately recognized that the tone did not match the rest of the film. The joke also risked overshadowing Goldie's empowerment arc, and might have prompted backlash in a movie marketed as family-friendly science fiction. Director Robert Zemeckis later explained in interviews that humor involving race was never intended to define the Back to the Future universe, so the line was cut before final editing. Although the footage remains archived, it has never been included in official releases. Fans only learned of it through script drafts and interviews with cast members who remembered the moment on set. This deletion reveals how filmmakers carefully shaped the movie's tone, removing anything that risked breaking the upbeat and hopeful energy that defines Hill Valley's story. The lost line remains one of the more unusual examples of creative adjustments made behind the scenes. The mysterious pink car lady, who appears and disappears in 3 frames. In the town square sequence, when Marty first arrives in 1955, viewers briefly see a woman in a bright pink car drive past him. For decades, fans debated whether she was an extra, a continuity error, or an intentional Easter egg. The oddity comes from the fact that she appears in one shot, vanishes in the next angle, and reappears in another. Her car does not follow the normal traffic pattern of the scene, and her wardrobe does not match the color palette used for background extras. Online frame-by-frame analyses highlight that the pink car travels in a direction inconsistent with the established street layout of Hill Valley. Some fans believed she was part of a removed subplot. Others thought she was a crew vehicle, accidentally caught in the shot. Production notes eventually revealed a simpler explanation. The pink car was a background prop used for visual contrast, but its placement changed between takes and the editors did not catch the inconsistency. Because the moment is so brief, it survived every remaster and home video release. The pink car lady has since become a minor cult mystery, with viewers speculating on forums and video breakdowns about her role and origin. The strange appearance adds a small but memorable glitch to an otherwise carefully choreographed sequence. The time travel math error fans did not catch for 20 years. One of the most surprising technical mistakes in Back to the Future involves the clock tower paradox. According to the internal logic of the film, Marty leaves 1985 at the exact moment Doc Brown is supposed to be shot by terrorists. When Marty returns to 1985 after altering the past, he arrives minutes before the attack occurs. However, the time coordinates used in the DeLorean's dashboard do not support this outcome. According to the displayed time settings, Marty should have appeared at a moment that makes the prevention of the attack mathematically impossible. Fans noticed the discrepancy decades after the film's release, pointing out that the timeline should not align with the events shown on screen. Even more curious is that the math error persisted throughout the sequels, where timeline logic becomes even more complex. Writers later admitted that accuracy in time calculations was less important than emotional payoff. They prioritized narrative tension and clarity over strict scientific logic. Because of this, the paradox was never corrected. This glitch reveals how the film's charm relies more on storytelling momentum than on precise temporal mechanics, and it remains one of the most discussed inconsistencies in fan communities. The crew member who accidentally appears in a key shot. During one of the courthouse square scenes, a reflection in a shop window briefly shows a member of the film crew. The individual is holding equipment and appears for only a moment, but the presence is unmistakable. This mistake remained unnoticed by most viewers for years because of the speed of the shot. The reflection is easier to identify in high-definition releases where background detail becomes clearer. Production crew visibility is one of the most common errors in busy outdoor scenes. Yet, Back to the Future is known for exceptional attention to detail, which makes this moment stand out. Editors later admitted that the mistake slipped through because reflections were harder to monitor when shooting on film rather than digital displays. Modern remasters have preserved the shot exactly as it appeared in 1985, meaning the crew member is now immortalized in the film's visual history. The moment has become a popular trivia detail among fans who enjoy pausing the scene to identify the exact frame. It serves as a reminder that even iconic films contain small imperfections that survive the final cut. The back alley set, that quietly reused a famous Western film lot. A surprising detail hidden in Back to the Future is that one of its alleyways was not built for the movie at all. It was part of a long-standing Western backlot used in classic Hollywood productions. Universal Studios had reused this location for decades, and sharp-eyed film historians later connected it to several well-known westerns from the 1950s and 1960s. The alley appears during Marty's early exploration of 1955 Hill Valley, particularly when he tries to orient himself after arriving in the past. At first glance, it looks like a normal street behind the courthouse square. However, the brickwork, door shapes, and roof lines match sets used in shows like Wagon Train and films such as The Man from the Alamo. Production designers confirmed that they combined old Western elements with new storefront facades to create a sense of layered history. This blending of eras gave Hill Valley a unique visual texture without requiring a fully built town from scratch. Even stranger is that the alley has since been repurposed in modern films, meaning a single corridor of buildings has quietly traveled through multiple movie genres. What begins as a small transitional shot in Back to the Future actually represents one of Hollywood's longest-running set evolutions. It stands as a quiet monument to the studio's practical filmmaking approach and the recycling of physical environments long before digital backgrounds became the norm. The secret cameo from a famous musician that went uncredited. One of the film's most surprising hidden details is a cameo by Huey Lewis, the musician behind the hit song, The Power of Love. Although credited for the soundtrack, Lewis also plays a small on-screen role. He appears as a judge during the high school band auditions, where Marty's group performs. The cameo is brief and delivered with dry humor. When Marty's band plays a loud, energetic version of one of Lewis's own songs, the judge interrupts them and says the music is simply too darn loud. Many viewers never realized the judge was Lewis himself, because his appearance was understated and he wore glasses that altered his usual stage look. The filmmakers wanted to include him as a nod to his essential contribution to the movie's sound and identity. The cameo became one of the most beloved Easter eggs among fans, especially once high-definition versions made his face easier to recognize. Despite its small scale, the moment adds a layer of self-awareness and connects the film's world directly to its soundtrack legacy. While Lewis never received an official acting credit for the role, it remains one of the most enjoyable hidden surprises in Back to the Future. The prop clock that actually did not work. The iconic clock tower prop used throughout the film had a secret that audiences would never guess. The large exterior clock on the courthouse did not function at all. It was built only to appear operational, with hands that could be manually set, but no internal mechanics to keep time. The production team designed it this way because they needed full control over the exact position of the clock hands for multiple scenes, especially during the lightning strike sequence. Having a working mechanism would have created continuity problems and required constant resets. The clock's frozen position became a central plot point, so its artificial nature served the story more effectively than a functioning version. Spielberg supported the simplified design because it allowed the crew to shoot scenes out of order without worrying about technical complications. Fans later learned that the clock tower used for filming at Universal Studios still features a non-working clock, kept that way as part of its historical preservation. Visitors often assume the clock was once operational, but guides confirm that it never contained any functioning gears. The choice reflects an era when practical filmmaking prioritized control and reliability over realism, resulting in one of the most recognizable static props in movie history. The Einstein the dog trick shot that was entirely fake. Einstein, Doc Brown's loyal sheepdog, plays a prominent role in the early experiment that demonstrates time travel. In the movie, Doc straps Einstein into the DeLorean and sends him 1 minute into the future. The shot appears seamless, as if the dog truly disappears and reappears in a flash of energy. However, none of the effect was captured in real time. Instead, the production relied on old-style editing techniques. They used locked-off cameras and identical lighting setups to film the before and after moments. The effect depends entirely on visual continuity. When Doc accelerates the DeLorean, the dog is swapped out of the car in between cuts, and the smoke and sparks distract the viewer from noticing the switch. The finished result looks clean because the crew controlled every element of the environment. In an era before widespread CGI, this trick demanded precise coordination. Trainers worked closely with the filmmakers so Einstein could hit his exact marks. The deception is so well executed that many viewers believe some portion of the shot was mechanical or animatronic. In truth, it was simply clever filmmaking and expert timing. The sequence still holds up today because practical effects often age better than digital ones. Einstein's teleportation represents a piece of classic Hollywood ingenuity, combining performance, set design, and editing to sell an illusion that remains convincing decades later. The DeLorean doors that constantly jammed during filming. While the DeLorean is now viewed as a sleek time travel icon, it was notoriously difficult to work with during production. The car's gull-wing doors created ongoing issues on set. They jammed frequently, sometimes refusing to open at all. This led to multiple takes where actors had to improvise ways to enter or exit the vehicle. Michael J. Fox once joked that he spent more time stuck inside the DeLorean than driving it. The problem came from the car's original engineering, which used complex hydraulic mechanisms that did not always respond consistently under studio lighting conditions. Heat from the lights expanded certain metal components, making the doors stiff or misaligned. The crew often had to use hidden supports to hold the doors open during filming, so they would appear smooth and futuristic on camera. In some scenes, one side of the door was propped off screen while actors performed their lines. Despite the challenges, the DeLorean's unique look justified the extra effort. Its shape provided instant visual identity, and the gull-wing design became symbolic of cinematic time travel. The production team worked through every mechanical flaw to maintain continuity, resulting in one of cinema's most recognizable vehicles, the hidden branding fight over Pepsi and Tab. Back to the Future contains one of the strangest behind-the-scenes product placement debates of the 1980s. Pepsi had already partnered with Universal, but Coca-Cola owned Tab, which appears prominently when Marty orders a drink in 1955. Early drafts listed Pepsi Free, a real beverage at the time, but Coca-Cola objected to Pepsi products dominating the scene. This sparked an unexpected negotiation that influenced the final dialogue. The famous line where Marty says he cannot order a Tab until he pays for something was written partly to avoid giving either company dominant exposure. Production notes later revealed that both brands attempted to shape how their drinks were referenced. The filmmakers kept the humor subtle and used the confusion as part of Marty's out-of-time comedy. The scene became memorable because it captured how a teenager from the future would sound bizarre to people in the 1950s. The corporate tug-of-war quietly shaped a small but iconic moment in the film. The costume error that put Marty in impossible 1950s sneakers. When Marty arrives in 1955, he is wearing Nike Bruins, a sneaker that did not exist until nearly 2 decades later. While this seems intentional, the costume team originally chose them for comfort and style rather than accuracy. In 1985, Nike was already trending among young skaters, so the shoes were seen as natural for Marty's character. However, once the production shifted to 1955 scenes, the anachronism became a noticeable oversight. Wardrobe supervisors admitted in interviews that they realized the mismatch too late to correct it. Removing the shoes would have risked continuity issues since several scenes had already been filmed. The final result created a small paradox embedded in the visuals. Marty walks through Hill Valley wearing footwear that would not exist until the early 1970s, adding an unintended layer of time travel irony to his appearance. The Hill Valley extras who repeated the same walk 40 times. Creating Hill Valley required carefully synchronized background movement. Extras had to walk predetermined routes to maintain continuity across multiple angles and takes. In scenes where Marty enters the town square, several extras reported repeating the same walk cycle more than 40 times. The reset process was demanding because each person had to hit the same marks and gestures for every shot. Crew members described the filming as a human choreography exercise. This was necessary because cuts between scenes needed a consistent rhythm to make Hill Valley feel alive but not chaotic. Extras later said they memorized specific timing patterns, such as when to wave, when to cross the street, or when to check a window. The end result looks natural, but it was built from painstaking repetition. The movie's immersive town environment comes from this disciplined background work, turning simple pedestrian moments into an unseen layer of cinematic precision. The light post that appears and disappears across timelines. A small but fascinating continuity error occurs near the entrance of the town square. A light post is visible in certain shots of 1985 Hill Valley, but disappears completely in corresponding shots from earlier versions of the timeline. When the scene transitions from the restored timeline back to Marty's altered version of 1985, the light post inexplicably reappears. Fans discovered the inconsistency in high-definition versions where background details are more visible. The error likely comes from the decision to use different sections of the Universal backlot during reshoots. Because the crew focused on character blocking rather than background structures, the light post change slipped through. Although minor, the visual glitch became a popular example of how small set inconsistencies can create unintentional timeline paradoxes. It reflects how tightly the film's visuals are analyzed by fans decades later. The Twin Pines Mall sign that reveals a hidden time ripple. One of the most clever visual jokes in the film is the change from Twin Pines Mall to Lone Pine Mall, after Marty knocks down one of Old Man Peabody's pine trees during his first 1955 arrival. While the detail is subtle, it represents a full timeline shift caused by a single action. Many viewers did not notice the name change until home video releases allowed freeze-frame comparisons. The altered sign demonstrates how even a small event in the past can ripple outward and rewrite the present. The effect required two separate prop signs, filmed months apart, and the crew had to ensure that lighting, weather, and background vehicles matched the original footage. The result is one of the smartest continuity gags in the trilogy, designed to reward attentive viewers. The hidden joke printed beneath the out-of-time license plate. The famous out-of-time plate used on the DeLorean contains a tiny inside joke that fans rarely see. On the underside of the prop plate, the effects team printed a small coded message referencing their department initials. It was never filmed, but it remained on the prop throughout production and was discovered only when collectors obtained screen-used versions years later. The hidden text was placed there as a morale booster for the effects crew, who spent long nights fabricating custom DeLorean parts. Although the message never appeared on camera, it became a piece of franchise trivia and demonstrated how prop teams take pride in leaving personal marks on their work. These small touches turn production items into unique artifacts, deepening the film's legacy. Back to the Future remains a film that grows stranger, richer, and more fascinating the deeper you look into it. Behind every polished frame lies a world of abandoned ideas, hidden accidents, subtle jokes, and creative risks that shaped the movie's final form. These unusual details remind us that great films are not only built on perfect planning, but also on unpredictable moments that become part of their legacy. The story of Marty and Doc continues to inspire new generations, not just because of time travel, but because the film itself is a time capsule of bold filmmaking choices. Long after the credits roll, the mysteries and oddities inside Hill Valley keep the adventure alive.